Hello there. We're here tonight to have a look at the latest two releases in the DC Comics graphic novel collection, which is a great series to collect. Once a fortnight, you get a great graphic novel from the annals of the DC Comics library, from all different ages. All the different characters get a chance to shine. It's a really good collection, one I can't recommend enough. Although I've got every sort of release from number one onwards, we're going to just look at the current two that are out now, rather than go back and review ones that have been out for weeks and months, or in some cases over a year. So these are the latest two. This is releases number 52 and 53. We've got The Man Who Laughs and Arkham Asylum, which is a double bill, a Batman double bill. And then we've got New World Order, which is a Justice League release. Okay, let's have a look at the two then in a turn. The first one then is Batman, The Man Who Laughs and Arkham Asylum, a double bill. You might wonder why one has two titles in one book, but it's because both were originally released as sort of prestige one-shot formats. They weren't, like your normal 6 or 7 serialized issue comics that then get collected later down the line as a trade paperback or hardcover special. These were shorter format, so obviously to just put one in here would be quite a thin book. So to pad out the book to its optimum size, they put two titles together. Both Batman titles, as you can see from the front cover, but both based around the Joker. The first one then, The Man Who Laughs, was originally published in 2005, written by Ed Brubaker and art by Doug Mankey. Ed Brubaker, very well known for, at least in my mind, is probably the thing he's most famous for was his writing on the Winter Soldier, creating that character. And a lot of his Winter Soldier book, which I've got and might review at another time, a lot of it was lifted onto the Winter Soldier film that came out about 3 years ago. Pieces of that were used as the plot of the film. Only pieces, not verbatim, but nevertheless you can see where they got a lot of it from. This one is certainly not one you'd read to your children unless you were a bit bizarre. Very adult content, very violent, quite graphic violence actually in both titles. First of all though, The Man Who Laughs, it's in many ways it's like a quasi sequel, if you will, to Batman Year One. It's a lot written the same way. The sort of interior monologue of Batman is formatted the same inside. If we have a look at it, the way it's written, you can see there it's sort of formatted the same as the Batman Year One. This is set on, obviously, not in the same era as Batman Year One. It's a bit further on, and it's his first experience battling the Joker, who's depicted in this as something approximate to the what you might have seen as Heath Ledger's depiction in The Dark Knight, where he's sort of extremely chaotic and psychotic and seems to do things without a moment's thought, but yet still has this overarching master plan that where he always seems to be one step ahead of Batman. It shows the genius below the psychopathy, if that's the correct word. Again, I don't want to spoil too much of it for people who haven't read it or are going to read it, so I'm not going to go through the full plot or anything like that in any of these. But it's extremely well written, very well drawn. It's an interesting one where I can't give too much away without giving the plot away, but the sort of basic premise of it is sort of Batman is still relatively early on in his crime fighting career. The Gotham Police, the GCPD, are sort of quite wary of him, but sort of tolerate him. Jim Gordon's a big advocate of his, obviously. And then this Joker character comes seemingly out of nowhere. No one knows who he is or where he comes from, and he starts targeting various rich, wealthy sort of figureheads in Gotham City, including Bruce Wayne himself, which leads to an interesting conclusion. But again, no spoilers. But extremely well done. It's a great read. I can't recommend it enough, to be honest with you. The second half of this collection, Arkham Asylum, this was originally released in 1989, written by suppose you could say, the legendary Grant Morrison, a man who's written so many classic DC titles down the years. You know, most recently the Multiversity, you could say. He wrote Wonder Woman, Earth One, Final Crisis. You know, the man's uber talented. Art in this one by Dave McKean as well. To me, I don't know, the problem I have with the book, it seems to be the way I feel about a lot of Grant Morrison's work, where I read it and it makes me feel quite thick, or maybe not thick, more of a sort of intellectual pipsqueak or something like that. I don't know. It's just written where there's, you know, it's heavy on symbolism, heavy on imagery. This particular one almost seems to, the whole thing seems to have like a dreamlike state to it, a dreamlike quality, where, you know, it doesn't seem to be to the point. Undoubtedly, it's very well done, and it's, you know, it's considered, you know, one of the sort of classic pieces of DC writing. But for me, I don't know, I've always not really enjoyed it, to be honest with you. Maybe I am thick. I guess I am. As you can see from the art of this particular one, it's very abstract. You know, there's not a lot of dialogue in it as such. It's done very arty. And again, the basic plot, and I shot a Norman Bates there. The basic plot again, and it is a very sort of odd plot, concerns the Joker's basically holed up inside Arkham Asylum, and Batman has to go in there and save the day, so to speak. It's not one I've ever really enjoyed, to be honest with you. It's one of those you'd probably sort of read once to say you've read it, but then again, what I think doesn't go for everybody. But it's never really been one of my all-time favourites. But overall, you know, for the money you pay, you get two titles, so it's a pretty good, worthwhile investment. And that's number 52, Batman, The Man Who Laughs, and Arkham Asylum. 53 then is JLA New World Order. Again written by my friend Grant Morrison, art by Howard Porter in this one. Originally published in 1997, and you can immediately tell just from this front cover that it's the mid-90s, just because Superman there is sporting a mullet that, you know, Billy Ray Cyrus in his heyday would have been proud of that bad boy, I think. Beautiful, beautiful. And as you can see there, Kyle Rayner's the Green Lantern in this incarnation. That's Wally West as the Flash. Aquaman there has got his harpoon hand, so it's very much of its time. It's very much a 90s release. What did I think of it? I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest with you. The plot, it basically, again, no huge spoilers, but it involves the White Martians coming to Earth to take it over, to subjugate it, and in time-honoured tradition, it's up to the Justice League to stop them, which you can guess whether they manage to do that or not. It's okay. It's not a classic. It's one of them you'd sort of read for reading's sake. Probably get it done in about 25 to 30 minutes, and then never read it again. That's my personal opinion on it. It's very much of its time, I think. I don't think it's particularly aged well. There's a couple of nice bits and pieces in there. The bit that really sort of struck me again, don't want to spoil too much, but the various members of the Justice League get bested by the White Martians, with the exception of Batman, and it's up to him to go and save the day. And there's a fantastic bit in there where he stealthily sneaks aboard the baddie's craft, where Superman has been captured and bested and is in a sort of kryptonite-induced weakened state, at death's door, if you will, and Batman basically storms the craft and starts taking out these superpowered Martian beings on his own. And the guy who's the leader of the White Martians is basically saying to Superman, you know, you think your friend's going to come and save you? He's just a man. You know, what is he? What can he possibly do against us? Where you and your godlike friends failed? And Superman goes to them, he's the most dangerous man on Earth. which kind of sums up Batman. He is the most dangerous man on Earth, and it just, the way he takes them out is quite ingenious as well, yet also quite simplistic. Very well done. It, you know, it ties into what you would think of as the Martian Manhunter's ultimate weakness. He uses that against them, and the way he takes them down is pretty amazing, really. Overall, though, you can see it's, from the way it's written and drawn, it's very much of its time. Very 90s depiction, a lot of big pages. There you go, there's Superman again with his wonderful mullet, Billy Ray. It's not something I'm a big fan of, to be honest with you. It's one of those where I've read it, I'm not going to read it again. It's got some nice bits in it, but it's not what I would consider an all-time classic. But, you know, again, it's everyone's personal opinion, isn't it? So that's 52 and 53. The next one, number 54, will be the Teen Titans Judas Contract, which is an 80s release, actually, by Marv Wolfman. And not that long ago was released as an animated film. So it'll be interesting to reread that, and then obviously I'll come on here and say what I think about it, see how it compares to the animated film, and then we'll go from there. Okay, thanks for listening anyway. Hope you enjoyed that brief look at those next two releases. We'll review the next one as it comes out, and then we'll also look at the DC Rebirth if we can, the titles that are ongoing through there, and just see where that's going. Again, I'll try and keep it as spoiler free as I can without going into too much depth, which I could do. But those are they. Hope you enjoyed them. All right, bye bye.